Hey, and welcome back, all of you cute bunnies. In my last video, I was talking about a dress that I wanted to make from this yellowy, flowery fabric, and I actually didn't exactly make that dress. I just kind of made something inspired by it, and I also actually, spoiler alert, I didn't make a dress. I made a top and a bottom, but that just means it's more versatile and I can wear it many more different ways than just a dress. For the top, I actually followed the tutorial of another YouTuber. She is called Kati, and I'm gonna link her channel down below, and it is a very well done tutorial and you should definitely go check her out. And yeah, for the skirt, I just kinda did a little something with the rest I had, and this is how I made it. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so let's begin with the top. After I figured out my measurements, which you can actually see on the other video of the other YouTuber, but here are just the measurements I use for my personal size. And so basically you have one big piece for the sleeve, which is folded, and you have two pieces each for the top, front and back, and then you also have a very long ruffle, which I actually cut out after because I measured after I assembled the sleeve and the top. So I actually cut the top piece in half so I could put a ribbon there and so it could be tied up. The first step is actually cutting out the armhole, which in this case is just, a triangle. For me, my triangle was 10 centimeters long and 3 centimeters wide. I can't feel it anymore. I cut both of these measurements from the sleeve and from the top piece that goes along my bust. Don't paint the fence, I like the way it's fading. Next up, I just kind of put the sleeve on my arm so I could figure out where I wanted the two elastics for my wrist to go. And I just took a ruler and approximated where that would be. And I am doing the first one at the bottom of my wrist. You can obviously just do one. I just decided to do two because I thought that looked pretty cute. And first up, I'm gonna fold it right sides together and I'm gonna stitch that down, but I'm gonna make sure the elastic fits in comfortably and easily. This is what it's gonna look like. Next up, I am ironing it to one side. And then I am going to top stitch just right along the edge of that open side. And this is what it should look like from the inside, and from the outside you should have a fold and then a top stitch. After that, you want to do the second row of elastic, and you just want to do the same process. Stitch it down right sides together and then iron and top stitch. Next up, I measured my elastics for my wrist, but actually gave it a lot of give so I can still adjust. I am threading both of these through the tunnels that I have created. After that, I think after one, I actually put it on my hand, and it felt like there was a lot of fabric for this tiny bit of elastic, so I actually cut down some of it, and that helped a lot. And whenever I cut a piece, I keep the leftover fabric to make sure the other side, well, the other sleeve, is gonna be the exact same way. So I just place it on top and use it as a guide to cut. Now that I have adjusted the elastics accordingly to my wrist, I'm gonna sew together left sides because I'm gonna do a French seam, which is beneficial to these elastics as well, which means it's gonna get 2 stitches, and that's gonna make it extra secure. So firstly, left sides together, and then I'm gonna cut the seam allowance really short. Be careful with the elastics. And after that, I am going to press it, the seam allowance, and I'm gonna do that right sides together, and I'm just gonna press it so it's nice and even. And this is what it will look like after, from the outside and from the inside. Super clean and super secure. Next up, I'm stitching together the side seams of the upper part of the bust, and I'm also hemming these front split parts. After that, I am placing together the sleeve and the top part. And I'm actually sewing this with a French seam as well. So first left sides and then right sides together. After this, I am ready to measure my ruffle, and I am just kind of measuring. After I have measured and cut, I hem the end and one of the long edges. And after that, I am pinning the right side of the ruffle to the left side of the top, because when I flip it out, I want to see both right sides. Just like this. This is the ruffle I am pulling down, and right sides are both out. Next up, I'm going to be top stitching, and I make sure to fit this a little bit wider elastic. And here it is already inserted. That took forever, so I'm not going to show you that. And I actually measured it, and then I made sure to tuck in the elastic and top stitch it down like so. And now I am making 2 ties to go right where the elastic ended, and I'm just making a tube and then flipping it inside out with my nail art tool. And I'm also pressing that, and then I'm gonna just stick it in to where the elastic ended, and I'm gonna top stitch it down, and I can tie it up in a cute little bow if I have 2 hands. And after that, I actually tried it on and figured out that I needed less on the bust, so I cut a piece off And then I also sewed the lower half of the top, and I also did this with French seams. And it's just a loop right now. And I'm gonna pin it to the top part, making sure the middle overlaps. And I also did that left sides together and then cutting the seam allowance, flipping it, and then sewing it again right sides. And this is what I ended up with, and I'm gonna top stitch that down as well for the underbust elastic channel. But this time I need to leave a gap so the elastic can fit in later. I am going to do the same technique that I did on the sleeve 2 more times on the bottom half of the top, so I can have 2 more elastic channels. And I put in the elastic, and I also tried it on, and I made my mom help me. It works best when you just make sure it fits, it's not too tight or too loose. And then I'm gonna make the elastic go inside, and I'm gonna close the tunnel up because it looks weird if you leave it. So next up is the skirt. Here are all the pieces I needed, very simple. I also used some elastic. These are the pieces that I got here. First up, I sewed together the waistband right sides, but halfway along that seam I did a back stitch, and then I switched to a longer stitch, and at the end I did a back stitch again. And then I also folded in the seam allowance and top stitched that down so it would just be neat. And now for the gap here, I am actually undoing the longer stitches so I can feed the elastic through at the end, and it'll be nice and finished. And I can actually leave this open so I have access to the elastic at any time, even when I'm done sewing. So if the elastic gets loose or too tight, I can just go in, open it, and change it, or change it out even, without like taking the whole skirt apart. And yeah, I sewed together the waistband and the first tier, and then I actually had to do a little bit of patchwork to make sure the second tier was wide enough so the ruffle would be roughly enough. And I simply sewed 2 basting stitches all the way around the skirt, and I gathered those up. After that, I made sure to face right sides together with my top tier, and I also, marked the quadrants so I could make sure that the ruffle was evenly distributed. And after that, I'm just sewing down the ruffles, which takes a while, but take your time. The slower you go, the nicer it'll be. I also decided not to do a French seam here because I just overlocked it after. It seemed easier to me, especially with the ruffles. And here you can see the inserted elastic. I sewed it down, and now I can smoosh it into that hole that we left. And this is just what it's gonna look like. I'm not closing up that hole because it's on the inside of my skirt and no one will see it. Yeah, it's our little secret. now for the reveal. I obviously designed this so it would fit together as a dress, but I'm gonna show them to you separately as well. I think it gives a little bit of medieval vibes, and I'm totally here for it. All I did was just tuck in the top into the skirt a little bit, and now it looks like a dress. I am in love with this fabric. It is super flowy and very comfortable and very light. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, follow my Instagram, and I'll see y'all later. Bye!
Into the beyond, can't stop the neon colors now. Oh, yeah, it's a trend.